has a happy ever after. And after this story, there's an after party.
He is. Xenu's gonna fall off the bed, Sam.
Good.
Xenu's gonna fall off the bed.
Do it. Do it,
He's leaning in way too hard into these belly rubs.
He is right on the edge.
Come on. Just a little bit.
Do it.
Whoa! There we go.
Hurt him.
I didn't.
You murdered our baby.
I didn't hurt him.
I'm calling Candace DeLong.
This is the height of audio entertainment. Watching cats fall off the bed and having no way to record it.
He broke his legs. He can't even move.
He doesn't have any legs anymore. Oh no.
Oh no.
Save the Dennis, we'll just save the sandwiches for the funeral. It's fine.
Xenu, you ain't got no legs.
God.
All right, Den, you got to get out of the room.
Lieutenant Xenu, you ain't got no legs. That's what Dennis said. I can't take credit for that. Xenu, right. You alright, bubby?
Well, I'm Sam Logsden, and back with me this week is Amanda Pierce.
I am. Aren't I?
Yeah, we're back on our normal happy ever after party shenanigans. Back on our once upon a time shenanigans.
Yeah.
And we are graced with the presence of our girl Jane.
Yeah, I didn't realize it till partway through this episode. It was a quip from Granny.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm like, hold on a second, I recognize those quips.
Well, it's kind of interesting too, because this was directed by Dean White, who directed The Stable Boy.
Okay. Is that another Jane written episode?
I don't believe so. Just because
so.
It wasn't that great, but this episode ties in with that one. So it is kind of nice to have a little bit of direction continuity.
Yep.
So, okay. Once Upon a Time is now making our job to recap slightly more difficult, because we don't just have to worry about flashbacks versus being in Storybrooke. Thanks to the portal that opened up and the totally not Dementors that are in the world now, we have to worry about Storybrooke and the flashbacks and the Enchanted Forest, which is now in ruins. So here's my game plan here.
Okay.
We are going to bookend this recap with the now ruined Enchanted Forest, because there's really only 2 sentences that I need to say. Okay. I'm going to say one sentence first. We're going to explain the rest of it.
Did it even show up? I don't even think it showed up till the last scene.
It didn't, but I'm going to express it in 2 separate sentences. One at the beginning and one at the end. Because it'll be like a nice little bow.
Yeah, there's a kind of bow. There's a what a twist ending kind of for that bit.
Yeah.
So
for those of you who are invested in this show, you'll remember that we ended on something of a pretty important cliffhanger with Emma and Snow being thrown into the Enchanted Forest, and Mulan and Aurora see them. And they're convinced that they are the things that brought I'm going to call them Dementors, their wraiths. Yeah. Their wraiths. They brought the wraiths with them.
Shire Baggins.
So we don't really get to interact with them too much in this episode, which is a little bit of an odd choice in terms of how you're telling your story, but don't worry, we come back to them in future episodes.
I don't know. It seems kind of apropos of Hansel and Gretel. Like, we're gonna introduce them, and then we're gonna ignore that they exist.
Well, that's funny that you say that, because Dean White also directed True North, which was the Hansel and Gretel episode.
Oh, that not good one.
Yeah.
That arguably worst episode of last season.
Yeah,
I think it was the worst episode.
One of the worst.
I think it was the worst. Was that the one with the storm too? And the bird?
No.
The stupid fucking bird?
No, but you know what? Those were like really close together.
God,
Those were really
seasons are
close
so
together.
long.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote that too, or directed that too.
It
But
was bad.
uh, so basically, Mulan and Aurora decide to hold Snow and Emma captive while they take them to what's essentially a refugee camp for all the survivors in the Enchanted Forest. Because when I say it's in ruins, it's kind of in ruins.
Yeah.
Now, they end up going to this refugee camp, and Emma and Snow were thrown into a pit. And
Yep.
this is where I'm going to leave off and come back to it later
Yeah.
for reasons.
Yeah.
Amanda, should we start with Storybrooke?
You know what? No, let's start with the Fantasyland, I think.
Okay.
Because that kind of informs a lot of what's happening in Storybrooke.
Yeah, this is a really good morality tally chart episode. I might be making a couple of marks in here, because really this whole episode it's called We Are Both, and it's interesting because it's sort of about like the dualistic nature of Regina's character as well as some of the other characters in here too, and
Well,
sort of
as well as really all of the characters too.
yeah. But like specifically with Regina, it deals with her duality in terms of how she views power, both from the point of like what like her past self and her autonomy and asking for power versus how she is older and, you know, abuses, misuses, and tries to correct things with her power. So, atta girl, Jane. Thanks for making me think about this.
And this episode, for the first time in this entire show, actually has some interesting things to say about parenting that
Yes.
I'm going to touch on probably later. But
Yeah.
later on, I was like, oh, this show has like an interesting take on parenting as opposed to adoptive parents are garbage. All you need is your biological parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm giving full credit to Jane. Good job, Jane.
Jane knows how to make it.
You're still one of the 3 good things about this show.
Yes.
Robert Carlyle, Lana Parrilla, and Jane Esperson.
And guess what? We get all 3 of them in this in abundance.
We get really good scenes of Robert Carlyle and Lana Parrilla.
Yes.
In both Fantasyland and Real World. And whenever they're on screen together, it's always just fun. And interesting, and they both just act good.
Yes. So going into the past, we start with Regina trying to run away from her mother, presumably after her lover David was killed. And Cora does what witches do and, you know, summons a bunch of trees to extend their branches to stop you.
Well, I caught something this watch that I didn't catch last watch. That was months and months ago. Do you know what she used on her? She said, "Did you follow me?" And she said, "No, it was a boundary spell."
Yes.
Which is the same thing that Lana Parrilla, or Regina, ostensibly used in Storybrooke.
Yes.
So, it's getting really hot in this room.
And there's also and we'll touch on this in Storybrooke as well, but also the use of trees holding children from running away from their parents.
Yes.
Yes.
Also, all of Lana Parrilla's fantasy outfits in this episode are 5 fire, except for her wedding dress that I don't love.
Well, she probably didn't love it either.
It's wide. It's one of those, like, 1700s wide, but not all the way around. It's, like, wide just at the hips.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of that style.
No, it's interesting, and they always look like fun dresses to make, but, like, to actually see it, I'm like, eh.
It's the one that you have to walk through a door sideways in. Yeah, no, not about it. But just get that out of the way. All of her outfits are fantastic, except for that wedding dress. Which I would still give 3 fire.
Yeah. So yeah, Regina's mother, Cora, who I believe we talked about in season 1
Yeah,
a
she was
little
in the
bit.
Stable Boy.
She was, yeah, Stable Boy episode, and I don't think she was in any other ones, but we get a whole lot of her here.
Yeah.
And you know, we get her personal philosophy whenever Regina is trying to run away from her, and her mom's like, "Hey, listen, I kind of manipulated a lot of things for you to marry this king. Like, you're gonna do it." And
Yeah.
ultimately, after Regina expresses how disgusted she is with her use of magic and, you know, wanting freedom, Cora tells her that power is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is sort of kind of a spoiler. I say kind of, because eventually we get a backstory for Cora.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Okay. It's hinted at in this episode a little bit later, but we do get a backstory from her. But I kind of like just having this very, like, power hungry and wicked woman just chewing scenery.
mm-hmm.
She is delightfully evil. Whether
Mm-hmm.
or not we ever explore her character, the actual product of Cora that we get, I enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm also the kind of person who, like, when I was in high school, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I got to play the first witch in Macbeth.
Oh, I remember.
And I loved doing that. And I didn't understand why when I was younger. But looking back at it now, the most relatable thing that Shakespeare ever wrote was a bunch of women standing together, talking shit on people who were talking shit about them, and laughing over a severed thumb. That's the person that I grew up to be. So Cora
God.
is kind of my everything.
This quarantine needs to end so we can do that again sometime.
When shall we meet again? In
Yeah.
thunder, lightning, or in rain?
Yeah. And that Cora's Barbara Hershey, who looked familiar, and I just IMDb'd her. She was the mom in Black Swan.
Yes.
I recognized her, and I wasn't sure from what. She was also in Insidious, but
Yes, she is.
she's really good. I enjoy her.
She is really good at playing a mother where something is wrong with the child.
And something's probably deeply wrong with the mother.
Yep.
But you don't know her backstory yet, but it's deeply, deeply hinted at if you have any fairy tale knowledge.
Yeah.
When the father says that Cora met a man before him, not quite a man, he says, that gave her magic power.
Yeah. So Regina's like, huh.
And she won't even say his name. That's kind of the other thing, too.
Yeah.
And you find out later, when she steals her mom's magic book, that it's
Rumpelstiltskin.
So can you guess who Cora is?
Well,
I can't. I had a lobotomy.
Rumpelstiltskin actually kind of gives it away too, if you remember.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Because he tells Regina that, you know,
they have a history.
They have a history together. And she was a lot smaller the last time he saw her.
Uh-huh.
So.
And I like the whole, you look nothing like your mother, and then when she starts eviling, she's like, oh, I see it now.
Yeah. It's kind of cute. That's a good Janeism.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, cyclical nature of violence and abuse. Okay, I see you, show.
For those of you watching, please refer to our Happy Ever After Party episode for more information on that.
Which one?
Our Happy ... Ever After Party. Party.
Yeah, cyclical nature of abuse. It's real and something that terrifies me. Yay.
Same here. So, like, Robert Carlyle, Rumpelstiltskin, meeting Lana Parrilla for the first time, basically just reads her right away. It's like, listen, I know that you're sick of your mom's magical bullshit, but you might need
Mm-hmm.
some magical bullshit to deal with your mother.
You gotta fight magical bullshit with magical bullshit.
So here's a magical mirror. Well, what do I
Mm-hmm.
do with this magical mirror? Well, you gotta kind of push your mom into the magical mirror of bullshit.
You gotta push your mom through the looking glass, if you will.
Yes. It's not subtle.
No. But it confirms a fan theory I had about last season, so yay!
Mm-hmm.
Well, it pretty
Yes.
much confirms a fan theory I had about last season.
Again, if you haven't had a lobotomy, you will be able to see where this show is going.
I have.
For better or worse. Now then, I don't feel like describing it frame for frame, but to make a very long story short, Regina does push her mother through the looking glass.
And one of the reasons she does it is because she's angry all the time right now, too. Is because that leads to a really cool short scene where she strangles baby Snow White. It's like a fantasy scene where she strangles her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty great.
Yeah. So she's angry. Her mom's taunting her. Her mom's like right in front of the looking glass, and she's paying attention to Regina and not the looking glass, and you can see Rumpelstiltskin like gesturing to push her in. And it's not until Cora tries to do another like stranglehold on her daughter, not using
does an
trees.
arm hold thing, like a magic arm hold.
And it's not using trees, but the CGI effect looks very similar to the branches that were holding Regina before.
Read bad.
Yeah. They might as well have been the same effect, honestly. Yeah. And it's at this point where Regina has had enough and pushes her mother into the mirror. I didn't want to dwell on that too much, if only because of how well acted it was.
Yeah. It's a good little scene.
Yeah. Like, I think every once in a while, like, we talk about the show like we're shitting on it, and we're not.
No,
we're not.
We're shitting. I mean, we occasionally shit on the show, but listen, we'll give kudos when it does good stuff.
Absolutely. Like, this is a good episode, and the goodness comes from Lana Parrilla and Robert Carlyle.
And Barbara Hershey and Jane.
Yeah. All of those people. It's like a magical combination.
It'll tell you how much we don't just straight up hate this show, and particularly me, because this was your damn idea, this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that I don't hate this show, in that this was a kind of heavier Henry-centric episode than we've had for a couple episodes, and I didn't hate it. But he also didn't talk a lot. He was just kind of there. But, you know, I didn't hate it.
Henry has a book, you see. So he is still useful because of that book.
Jesus, that book of Henry.
No.
It's not that bad.
No. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, this show isn't as bad as the Book of Henry.
Okay. Because we're not even... The discussion ends here. Because if we say that too many times, then we're going to get some paper confetti snowstorms heading our way.
I am drawing a circle. It's a red button.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hit it. Let's stop. Change conversation.
Okay. So... let's talk about something significantly better in Storybrooke and Amnesia.
Well, there's one last thing. She meets Robert Carlyle on the road because she's leaving. And she gives him back the magic book. And he offers to give her power. And he asked her how it felt to push her mother through the mirror. And she said, I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And she agrees
that's when he says,
to be tutelaged under Rumple.
Yes. That's where the family resemblance comes in, is the power lust.
Yes. So back to the cold open.
Yeah. The 7 dwarves are gathered around the town's border, and they're trying to figure out if they can cross it or not.
Or what'll happen.
What'll happen? Because they really don't know. Nobody actually knows. And unfortunately, the pharmacist,
Yep.
Sneezy. Yeah, he's the pharmacist of the town, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, he's the one who walks over, and he actually gets re-amnesia'd into thinking he's the pharmacist,
But for
and not one of
good
the seven
this time.
dwarfs. Huh?
But for good this time.
Uh,
In theory.
y-
As far as they
yeah.
know.
As far as we know, I don't actually care.
No, not really.
No, because out of all the people that could happen to, it's like the dwarves can manage. It's fine.
There's 7 of them.
Yeah, and it wasn't Leroy.
And
Leroy wasn't the one that happened to, so I'm fine.
And they already lost Stealthy, so what's one more dwarf?
Exactly. Bring back him.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I explain what's happening in Storybrooke? I
Chaos
think
reigns.
Yeah. Insert the fox gif here. It's nuts. Jiminy Cricket is trying to calm people down. People are trying to understand what's going on, and they want answers, and nobody really has any good answers, and people are wanting to more or less kill Regina. And she's also trying to get her power, not so much get her powers back, but understand how magic is going to happen in this world. With the second curse, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Is it officially acknowledged that we're in the second curse?
No, I don't know what the second curse is. So yay.
Well, Robert Carlyle did the magic well thing at the end of season 1. So I don't know if this
curse.
I think.
I don't know.
I'm
but
not sure.
We're stuck in this town.
Yeah, they're stuck in the town. We had the magic dragon fart all over the city. So Regina's really trying to hone in on her magical ability, and actually needs the help of Robert Carlyle to get her book back.
Mm-hmm.
Which he has a copy of.
Yeah.
Not sure how, but
Rumple does.
A Rumple do what a Rumple do.
Yes.
Now then, the tension between them is pretty magical.
It is.
It's great because she is literally only coming to him out of desperation, and it's great because they're not screaming at each other. It's just there's a lot of eye acting going on. There's a lot of facial acting going on.
Yeah, they're just acting at each other.
Yeah, they're acting so hard, and it's you can cut that scene with a cardboard sword.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and the reason she wants magic back is to get Henry back, because David took Henry. So that's the modus operandi.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the word. But that's the reason why she wants to get her magic back so bad. And David says, if you need magic to keep your son, you never really had him. And she refused to take parental advice from a man who put his daughter in a box and shipped her to Maine. Good job, Jane. But she gets the book from Rumple, and she gets her groove back.
Mm-hmm.
Her apples become all red and luscious again, and that's not a euphemism for anything.
No, the apple tree in the front yard, they were jet black. Now they're red and scrumptious again.
Mm-hmm. Apples as red as blood.
Yeah.
And then they were going to have a town hall meeting where David was going to tell everyone what to do, because he was just flying by the seat of his pants. He's like, okay, nobody panic. I have a plan. We'll meet here in 2 hours. Then Ruby's like, what's your plan? And he's like, I have 2 hours to figure it out. So
if we ever needed to solidify
Jefferson's hat.
Yeah, if we ever need to solidify how useless David / Charming was, this is it.
I like it because at least there's character in it now.
Yeah, it's like
He reminds me of have you seen or watched Into the Woods?
Yeah.
You know the whole agony with the two princes where they're talking about, how just it's so hard to get a woman these days. They're always being guarded by dwarves.
Yes.
And, always 10 feet behind, always 10 feet below, and she's just out of reach. It's played off with this grandiosity and this very regal air that they are just deeply incompetent. And especially the second one where they're cheating on their wives with the new princesses.
Yes.
It just kind of stinks a little bit of that Into the Woods, like, oh no, I'm a prince and I'm regal. And then you realize in this world now in Storybrooke how much all that competence was a front. And he's probably been flying by the seat of his pants for a really long time now and just hoping nobody catches on.
That's his character. That is how we were introduced to him.
Yeah, but this time they're like not romanticizing it. Like I feel like we were supposed to find him charming. In this, he's almost a comic relief. Yeah,
he's sort of like if you went. How can I explain this? David / Charming is sort of like a slightly less cocky and even less competent Han Solo.
Yeah.
Like, he's quick enough on his feet that he's able to catch himself, but he is way too much of a doofus to plan anything in advance.
Yeah, and he's probably about 50% less likable than Han Solo, but
Yeah.
But you're not going to be Harrison Ford.
No, you're definitely not, and I think that's kind of what the show wanted him to be a little bit, or at least now. But like point being, his character has a character, and he's not quite as milquetoast as he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's still pretty. He's gone from
I don't now hate every time he's on screen. Mary Margaret has yet to overcome that for me.
Did you see the next episode?
I don't remember. Months ago.
So
everyone's at the town hall except for David, who is
trying to practice a speech.
Well, and then he finds he's trying to re-magic the hat.
Yeah, and he doesn't realize it's Jefferson's right away.
And he finds Jefferson in an upside-down car.
Yeah.
And pulls him out, tries to force Jefferson to tell him to get it to work. And Jefferson's like, I can't do it. Wait. And then he runs away.
I remember how it happened. I actually remember this.
Mm-hmm.
Regina gave him the hat because that's how
they went through the portal.
That's how they went through the portal in the first place. He didn't recognize where the hat came from, and Henry recognized it because Henry has a book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fucking book.
Yeah. So
anyway, so that's what David's doing and why he's not at this meeting when Regina busts in. But first, there was the Granny-inspired quote.
Yep.
I suppose the inspiring Granny quote, which she's walking through the town hall meeting in a very crowded room with a crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
And Ruby says, do you really need that? And she's like, we got a lawless town. Damn right I need it.
It's great.
And then I was like, Jane wrote this, didn't she?
Yep. Great. Jane was the one who gave Granny that crossbow, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not letting that go anytime soon.
And Regina comes in and magics up the place.
Granny does try to shoot her.
And she's like, oh, that's sweet. And then she shoots a fireball around and then lights the seal of the city on fire behind her.
Yeah.
Which is a bad effect, CGI. But still kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
it's not the worst effect that the show ever did.
Henry surrenders himself to Regina.
Yeah.
And then once they get to the house, he immediately tries to go out the window and is bound by trees.
Sounds familiar.
And then is given the speech that I just want what's best for you, and power is what's best, and I can teach you magic stuff,
That should also sound
And
familiar.
people can love you. And it's pretty much almost verbatim what Cora said to baby Regina.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what kicked me off thinking, oh, this show has something interesting to say about parenting for once.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Amanda, take the wheel, Amanda.
Which is the expectations of a parent versus the autonomy of a child, which I think every child at one age or another has had to deal with. Your parents have certain expectations of what they want from you, be it you find a handsome prince in a heterosexual monogamous marriage, be it entering a certain career field, being, whatever. And some parents try to push that really, really, really hard on their child, like Cora did to Regina and Regina did to Henry. And that pressure that you put on your child can then be put on the next child, as well as with the binding of the trees and the I love you, but you should do exactly what I say, and if you don't, I'll punish you. Emotional abuse. So it's kind of just showing the cyclical nature and how hopefully you can break the cycle unless they fuck up Regina, which I don't really believe this show won't do.
Yeah, this is why I have the morality tally chart handy with me. So I actually want to read you something.
Yeah.
Okay. And you may or may not have seen this. I don't actually always like to read this stuff. But sometimes, every once in a while, I like to see how the episodes were received from various critics.
Okay.
Now, this was back when the episode first aired in 2012, and this is from Amy Radcliffe, who said that this week's episode of Once Upon a Time was full of heart and much needed character development. Much needed. Which makes me wonder if Amy watched any of the first season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And this is only the second episode of the next
I feel like
season.
the show was overdue for some more character development as opposed to pure plot action.
Yeah.
But
it just seems
know.
like such a weird thing to say about the second episode of the second season.
I think the thing that is character development-y is that Regina's actually gonna try to improve herself. Allegedly. She's not just she's kind of shifted into another gear now.
She is. And
she does. David comes in with a sword, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, and she just lets Henry go.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not going to fight you.
And she said, I'm going to try to change, and I don't want to force you to do anything you don't want to or stay where you don't want to. If you love me, you'll come back, but I'm really going to try to do better. And then she refuses to burn her book. Her magic book.
She keeps it away. And that's sort of like that. Now that actually taps into like my family trauma a little bit, where it's like magic to Regina is almost like an addiction or a coping mechanism, and it's like and that is something that can be taught or inherited, or both in a lot of cases between families.
Well, and Rumpel even throws it out there that it's essentially an easy way out, which fits well into that kind of addiction idea. It's a very easy way to get rid of your problems.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
For a bit. And if it's a learned behavior or a learned mechanism or something that
you
is
model
one
after your parents?
If it's something that you can bond over
Yeah.
with your parents. And that's not exactly a healthy thing, but some people do through shared addictions. That is a way of bonding. If you're trying to better yourself and not want to lose your child, sometimes that part of you, which is the hardest to get rid of, has to do with addiction and not
Yeah.
wanting to let go of that coping mechanism because God forbid they see you unable to cope.
Well, and part of it, that's from the parent side, and part of it is from the child side, which is you see that that is how your parent deals with their problems.
Yeah.
So you learn, oh, this is how I deal with my problems now.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes me a little bit frustrated with the way that they handle Henry a little bit, because he clearly has an aversion to living with Regina and being taught magic and being taught all that stuff because he's seen what it's done to her. And I'm not even worried about what the hell he read in his book. I don't really care. But he's seen it firsthand, what it's done to her and how corrupt she is with it. But in the same breath, he'll talk about how excited he is to travel to the Enchanted Forest.
And, like, he acts really like he doesn't have 10 years of being raised by this woman.
Yeah, and it's like he knew her essentially without magic for a very long time. I'm saying this in quotation marks because you can't see it. He had 10 years with Regina sober.
Uh-huh.
And what triggered her back into a quote unquote relapse?
You think he would be more like, this isn't you. Like, this isn't you anymore. This person who uses magic to solve all their problems is not my mother. But then they'd have to realize that adoptive parents are real parents, and we can't have that shit. So he just goes with David.
Yeah. And again, just like, to have him have that moment with Regina, but then really be excited about, like, wanting to fight a dragon. And stuff like that. It's like, it's kind of poorly thought out.
Yeah.
It's and again, I'm not blaming the actor who plays Henry. It just they just gave him a shit character.
He's just badly written.
Yeah. Sorry,
I'm
Jane.
not blaming Jane.
Jane, you're
honestly,
doing the best you can.
She did the best that she could with that situation.
Yeah,
I really
it's like
liked the whole parallel between, and the editing serves it very well too, the whole parallel between Cora and Regina and how they enact control and arguably violence against both of their children.
Yeah, it's a different form of violence.
It's definitely emotional abuse. But or emotionally abusive, not an abusive relationship per se, which there's a difference.
Yeah.
But it's the tying up is kind of also like, yikes. Like, if a real parent did that with rope, you'd be in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. And, you can look at that as also like a metaphorical kind of draw too, how it's like, let's bring this to the real world. If you don't behave the way that I expect you to behave, you are no longer going to have the stability of this house, of this money, of my connections with people that make life a little bit easier for you. You don't have my love. You don't have my support.
Yeah.
So it's like, no one's actually going to physically tie you up with rope like that, or, well, shouldn't. But there's other ways that you can.
It's essentially a boundary spell. If you cross this area, if you cross into this area, then I'm going to do everything I can to keep you from crossing. And if you do, we're done, essentially.
It's conditional love.
Yes. It's unhealthy boundaries spells.
So, that was emotional.
And they go spreading good news, and that's pretty much how the Storybrooke episode ends. They tell Geppetto that August is his son. The dwarves go to try to mine fairy dust, and they say, off to work we go. And
Yeah,
Dennis
it's
went,
cute.
he said the thing.
So, you remember how I said that this episode kind of ends in a bow?
Mm-hmm.
Well, going to the enchanted forest in ruins, when we see Mary Margaret and Emma in the pit at the refugee camp, they are not alone in the pit. There is somebody down there with them.
They make a
Now,
friend.
they make a friend. Now, it's important to note here that when they get into the pit, Mary Margaret hits her head and is unconscious. She is knocked out.
Yeah,
So it's
Mulan
so
hit her
Emma
with
is
a thingy.
alone. Hmm?
Mulan hit her with a thingy.
Yeah.
A rock thing.
like a boomerang.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
But it's like the ropey one.
Yeah, it's like a rock. Two rocks tied together by string, you know.
It's what you use to trip animals when you're hunting them. But she took it to the head.
Yeah, like the back. But
so,
I think they meant to say the head.
Mary Margaret is passed out. And that means Emma is alone to talk with... It's Cora!
Yep. Not as in Legend of.
No, but Regina's mother, Cora.
Cora, I don't even know her. I don't know why I keep on making that joke in D&D and it never works.
Please, no, it doesn't. For the love of God. It's okay. Save it for when it's funny. When it's funny, it'll be funny.
Never. I never save jokes for when they're funny.
You save them for when they're painful.
Yep. Where they'll do the most damage.
If only your character could figure that out.
Hey, she's a big old tough girl.
She is. I love your D&D character.
I do too. She is really good.
She picks Roger Saltry up like a baby.
Yeah.
So real quick before we give a apple quantity, I'm going to put a tally mark on here. Under
sorry.
Actually, two different ones. Okay. 2 ones. So Regina actually gets one for moral ambiguity is hard. For pushing her mother into the mirror.
Okay.
I'm not putting that under evil. I'm putting that under moral ambiguity is hard because guess what?
I thought we were only counting her actions from Storybrooke forward.
Oh shit, you're right about that.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, Storybrooke forward, she gets it just straight up under good.
Yep. Well, you could argue that's evil because she magics up the place and tries to manipulate Henry back.
But she ultimately lets him go.
But she still is really very pushy and also tree ties him up and also shoots a fireball at people.
You know what? We're just gonna if we're giving her one for the whole episode, yeah, I would put it on moral ambiguity as hard.
No, I'd give her a good one.
A good one?
Yeah, and the only moral ambiguity one that I would say is that she didn't burn the book at the end.
So what if I did one in each column?
Yeah, just do one in each. That's zero-sum game it.
Well, remember how from the last time we did this, I put the evil mark in quotes because we may or may not count it.
I don't know. I wouldn't count an evil one from her this episode.
No. It's not from this episode.
No, I know. But I'm saying from this episode, I wouldn't throw an evil in because she does come out on the right side of history.
For now. She, in the gray side of history, really.
It's only for now. Everything is.
It's only for now. 4 apples.
4. That's what I was going to say.
4. A good solid 4. No bites.
No bites, no worms. Just 4 shiny apples in Regina's yard.
Yeah, on the branch, fully reinvigorated, not a black spot in sight.
Nope.
Alrighty. Now I am gonna say for next week's episode, I'm not as optimistic.
I'm always hesitantly optimistic at best. So
yeah, next week's episode, I don't even know if I want to explain why I'm hesitant about talking about it next week.
don't spoil
I just
it
am.
for me. I don't think I actually watched it.
I won't. I'm not giving it 4 apples, I can tell you that much.
Don't ruin the premise of the show for me.
I'm not. If I wanted to tell you like anything that spoils the premise of this show, I just tell you spend an hour on Wikipedia.
I have. And it's
Oh,
ruined
no.
some stuff for me already.
Yep.
I know some people we encounter in this show, and I'm not excited to see how they work them in.
I'm not either. Oh, you know what? I forgot what you know what we forgot to talk about?
What?
We forgot to talk about the totally not inspirational speech that David gives
Oh.
in this, and I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to tell you why he does it, but I am going to tell you that it is the source of the "I will always find you" meme that we keep on using.
Mm-hmm. Make Storybrooke great again.
Well, whether you like it or not, I am still Sam Logsdon.
I'm Amanda Pierce.
And remember, it may not be the end,
It may not be happy.
but you are always welcome to this party. Take care.
Oh, 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 it's magic.